Ready? Good morning. We're going to get started. Members will take their seats. To give our invocation this morning, the chair recognizes the Reverend Dr. Kimberlee Johnson of Tasker Street Baptist Church. She is here today as the guest of Councilman Johnson. I would ask all guests, visitors, and members to please rise. Reverend.
Good morning, Councilman Clark. Thank you, Councilman Johnson, for the invitation to come. I bring you greetings on behalf of Tasker Street Missionary Baptist Church. Will you pray with me? Gracious God, we thank you for the gift of life, for this brand new beautiful day, and for all of our blessings. We ask, God, that you would come into this space and superintend the time. God, we pray that all that would be done here would be done in a way that honors you and gives honor to the people you have created. We thank you for everyone that has the best interests of the residents of the city of Philadelphia in mind. May everything here be done with integrity and honesty, and with the greatest and the least among us in mind. We know in that you will be glorified. We thank you for these and all other blessings. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Reverend, so much. Council will be these. Thank you again, Reverend, for those inspiring words. Our next order of business is the approval of the journal of the meeting of Thursday, April 25th, 2019, and the chair recognizes Councilman Greenlee.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the journal of the meeting of Thursday, April 25th, 2019 be approved. Second.
Thank you. It has been moved and properly second that the journal of the meeting of Thursday, April 25th, 2019 stand approved. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, ayes have it, and the journal is approved. And our next order of business is request for leave of absence, and the chair recognizes Councilman Heenan.
Thank you, Mr. President. On behalf of the majority, there are no requests of leave of absence today.
Chair thanks the gentleman. Chair now recognizes Councilman O.
Good morning. On behalf of the minority, there are no requests for leave of absence.
Chair thanks the gentleman. At this time, I would like to take a moment to thank everyone who has taken time out of their busy day to come down to witness the government in action. We genuinely appreciate you being here. We hope that your stay here today is a knowledgeable one, but more importantly, a pleasurable one, so much so that you come back again. So again, thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate you. At this time, Chair will recognize Councilman Jones, who will present a resolution recognizing Jim Marino. Would Mr. Marino and those accompanying him please join the councilman at the podium? And joining Councilman Jones, we have Councilman Johnson, Councilwoman Parker, and Councilwoman Blackwell. And also Councilwoman Bass.
For many decades, Philadelphia suffered with an inferiority complex to New York and Washington, D.C. I had to grow up listening to people bash our city, from its water to its nightlife. But then we started slowly being identified for world-class events. We started being recognized in those events for things that were uniquely Philadelphian, whether it was water plugs, whether it was water ice, whether it was cheese steaks, but also, as important, was the Broad Street Run. And we want to thank no incidences, always professionally done. Every now and then we got a mayor out there to high-five people going in. I don't think any of them ever ran. But maybe in the future we can get somebody to run it. So we are here today to recognize Jim Marino for decades of service to the city of Philadelphia and the Recreation Department. Please join me in giving him a round of applause. And so the citation goes, recognizing and honoring Jim Marino on the occasion of his retirement after decades of dedicated service to the Department of Parks and Rec, and as the director of the Broad Street Run. Whereas Mr. Marino, affectionately known as Jim, is a longtime resident of the Roxborough neighborhood of Philadelphia in the 4th Councilmanic District, where he resides with his wife Jerry and his 2 children, Allison and Christopher. And
whereas Marino started his service to the city of Philadelphia in the summer of 1974, when he served as a pool attendant at Veterans Stadium and JFK Stadium, located in the 2nd Councilmanic District.
Good morning. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I hope you're passing the baton to someone.
I hope so too.
Whereas since then, he has served in various roles on countless projects for the Department of Parks and Recreation in recreation centers across the city, including serving as Assistant Recreation Leader at Scanlon Recreation Center, Recreation Aide at the Venice Island Playground, and Recreation Leader at Alumnae Recreation Center and, help me out, Capitola Recreation Center. Whereas in 1997, Marino became the director of Philadelphia's Broad Street Run. Under this man's stewardship, the race has grown from 5,600 runners in 1998, listen to these figures, 5,600 runners in 1998 to 40,000 runners in 2018. I wish I was one of them. I can't run. Becoming the nation's largest 10-mile race. And whereas Marino's elevation of the Broad Street Run did not go unnoticed, in 2005, he was named Assistant Parade Director for Philadelphia's legendary Mummers Parade.
And whereas in 2006, Mr. Marino was selected as, quote, as the, quote, National Race Director of the Year, end of quote, by his peers. Additionally, in 2016, he was named as the Director of the Philadelphia Marathon, and
Whereas Marino has served on numerous committees and boards on a national and local level, such as Mid-Atlantic USA Track and Field, an organization which presented him with his Jesse Owens Award for Meritorious Service in 2015, and Back on My Feet Philadelphia, an organization that seeks to combat homelessness through the power of running and community support. And whereas Marino serves as an inspiration to all, having battled cancer while still having the strength and courage to be a dedicated leader in our community, touching the lives of Philadelphians with each project he has worked on. Now, therefore, be it
Resolved by the Council of the City of Philadelphia that it hereby recognizes and honors Jim Marino on the occasion of his retirement after decades of dedicated service to the Department of Parks and Recreation and as Director of the Broad Street Run.
Further resolved, and an engrossed copy of this resolution be presented to Jim Marino as further evidence of the sincere respect and admiration of this legislative body. Jim, congratulations. Thank you.
And the chair recognizes Mr. Marino for remarks.
Something here somewhere. Pretty sure I got 'em. Whoop. I had notes there somewhere. I think I can wing it. First of all, I want to thank my wife, Jerry, and my son, Christopher, for coming today. Chris is a senior at Roman Catholic High School up the street, so he got out for a couple of classes. But since he's so close, he's got to go back. My daughter, Allison, was unable to be with us today. She's studying abroad in Rome. She's a junior at Penn State, living the life. So I want to make sure I recognize her. The three of them have sacrificed so much over the years with me doing all these various things that you've just heard about. And, without their support over the years, none of that would have been possible. So I just want to make sure I publicly acknowledge them for being so supportive. I also want to thank Councilman Jones and Josh Cohen and the rest of their staff, Charlita Davis, who is a wonderful friend of mine who worked on the marathon for years with me, along with all the city council for honoring me today with this award. It's so nice to get recognition for being a public servant. Many times they're overlooked. We have public servants throughout this city that I've worked with over the 40 years plus that do a great job day in and day out, that go unnoticed, but without them, none of this happens. I am so pleased that, of the accomplishments that we've achieved as a group in the Parks and Rec Department over the years, not only in our neighborhood communities, but also what we've done on a large scale. It's unheard of for a large scale event such as the Broad Street Run to happen in most cities, sponsored by a city. And we do this, it's sponsored by the city because we own it. The Broad Street Run is owned by the Parks and Rec Department, but it's not technically sponsored by the city. Independence Blue Cross is a sponsor and there's other sponsors. But the money to generate it through the volunteer efforts and the groups that are participating and the American Cancer Society, who's the beneficiary of the Broad Street Run, we were lucky enough over my years of being in charge, we've raised over $6 million for the American Cancer Society. And having that go full circle, as you heard, I am a cancer survivor. So the research dollars somewhere along the line helped save my life. I am a pancreatic cancer survivor. Yeah, think about that. And Councilman O and I got to speak at their Purple Strides race a couple of years ago on behalf of the pancreatic cancer program. But, as you hear lately in the news with Alex Trebek having stage 4, I was lucky. I was diagnosed early. I was stage 1. You never hear that about pancreatic cancer. So my promise to the doctors was that I would tell my story. And I do tell my story. If you're getting a CAT scan, get checked. Tell them to take a look at your pancreas because it's not something that they pre-screen for. That's why it develops into stage 4. There's no symptoms. I had my cyst for 3 years. And there was never a symptom until it finally went malignant, and then they went and got it. Stage 1. Very lucky, very lucky, very lucky. So spread the word, tell your people to get checked. It's important. It's important what the city employees do day in and day out. Thank them at your local rec centers. All the people that work at these rec centers work extremely hard to provide activities for all members of the community, young and old. And it's been a proud part of my life to be able to be a public servant. And I take it as a privilege that I know each and every one of the council people do also. And for that, I am extremely grateful. I've been lucky enough, as you mentioned, about the different mayors being at the race. I've been lucky enough that I've worked under 8 mayors. Think about that. How's that for survival? Okay? So I've seen the full run of how things operate in this government. And, with Councilman Jones' support in the community, him and I are working closely right now to help improve the Belmont Plateau cross-country courses. I'm going to continue to stay involved in that even though I'm retired, but that is one of our diamonds in the rough. Just like yesterday you heard about the Schuylkill River, Belmont Plateau is the same type of situation, and we want all your support for that. So thank you once again. I appreciate everybody honoring me today and the council people for being involved. Josh, it's always a pleasure working with you in Roxborough, and thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, Council BDs.
Now, don't you be late when you're going back.
Congratulations. Thanks, Rachel.
Thank you, and congratulations. At this time, the chair recognizes Councilwoman Parker, who will present a resolution recognizing Delta Sigma Theta Sorority. With Patricia Alford and those accompanying her, please join the Councilwoman at the podium. And joining Councilwoman Parker, we have Councilman Johnson, Councilman Green, Councilman Taubenberger, Councilman Greenlee, Councilwoman Blackwell, and Councilman Jones. And Councilwoman Blonda Reynolds Brown. And Councilman Down.
Wow.
How you doing? How are you?
As we continue to get assembled here, I want you to know that it is indeed an honor and a privilege that I join with my soror Councilwoman Blondell Reynolds Brown. Soror Councilwoman, how many years for you in Delta? 1996. 25 years. This is my 25th anniversary this year. So it is indeed an honor and a privilege that we continue with what is the 16th anniversary of a tradition established by our former colleague and my mentor and teacher, soror Councilwoman Marion Tasco, in honoring Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated in its Youth Day here in City Council. Let me just say on a personal note that all of our sorors who are here today are women who wholeheartedly believe that intelligence is the torch of wisdom. We are proud to follow in the footsteps of our founders. And for the record, for those of you who may not be familiar, none of you are an American or live anywhere in this world and you don't know Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, there is some challenges, but nevertheless, just in case you need to know of some notable Deltas who have made a traditional impact on our globe: Shirley Chisholm, Ruby D, Patricia Roberts Harris, Dr. Dorothy Height, Shirley Jackson, Elaine Jones, Barbara Jordan, Carrie Meek, Stephanie Tubbs Jones, And my favorite story of all sorors is when Soror Alexis Herman was making history and becoming the Secretary of Labor in our United States of America during the Clinton administration. And as she was being sworn in, they came outside to take a photo, and President Clinton says to our soror, "Who are those women in red?" And it was a slew, a sea of red on the steps. And our soror said, "Oh, Mr. President, those are my sisters." So it is indeed an honor to be here today. We want to say a special thank you to Soror Pat Alford from our Quaker City chapter, who started the organizing of this event and working with Councilwoman Marion Tasco some years ago. The resolution reads as follows: a resolution recognizing and honoring the members of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated's Philadelphia Alumnae, Quaker City Alumnae, and Valley Forge Alumnae chapters on the occasion of Delta Youth Day at Philadelphia City Council.
We would be remiss not to salute the sister of Janie from Cheney, Patricia Banton, who's also a member of our distinguished sorority. Whereas the Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated was founded on the campus of Howard University in 1913 by 22 phenomenal and trend-setting collegiate women who saw no limit to their vision for sisterhood, scholarship, and service. Delta's founders stepped out on faith to march with the suffragists and took a stand for social justice as their first public act. So Black women were a part of that movement. More than 105 years later, they continued their legacy of leadership by following in the footsteps of their founders and remain in the forefront of action as a voice for those in need. Whereas since its founding, more than 200,000 women have joined this sorority. The organization is a sisterhood of predominantly Black, college-educated women. The sorority currently has 1,000 collegiate and alumni chapters located in the United States, England, Japan, Germany, the Virgin Islands, Bermuda, the Bahamas, Jamaica, and the Republic of Korea, who proudly embrace their 2017-2019 biennial theme of joy in our sisterhood, power in our voice, and service in our heart. And on a final note of personal privilege, my daughter is a legacy, a member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority, whereby she was president of her chapter at Syracuse University.
And since we're talking about family, both my mother, wife, and sister are members of Delta Sigma Theta Incorporated. Whereas the Philadelphia, Quaker City, and Valley Forge alumni chapters share much more than a local bond. In fact, they are each members of a robust Pennsylvania statewide network that includes 26 collegiate and alumni chapters in the mighty Eastern region. From Philadelphia to York, Allegheny to Erie, and many counties in between. These dynamic women of diverse educational and professional backgrounds join together to proudly institute the sorority's 5-point programmatic thrust, which includes a laser focus on economic development, educational development, international awareness and involvement, physical and mental health, and political awareness and involvement through their service to their local and national communities. And
whereas, in 1927, 11 members of the Gamma chapter led by Sadie T.M. Alexander, the first national president of Delta Sigma Theta sorority, formed the nucleus of Xi Sigma. They together stressed the importance of the academic excellence, advocating for progressive and equitable social, political, and educational policies in the 20th century. The charter members became leaders in the communities in which they lived, and in 1956, the nomenclature of all graduate chapters were changed, and Xi Sigma was proudly renamed the Philadelphia Alumni Chapter. And
the determined members of the Philadelphia Alumni Chapter humbly celebrate their 2018-2019 accomplishments, which include serving as the host chapter for the Eastern Regional stop of the Sorority's Pride in Our Heritage Tour, which featured an enlightening dialogue between sorors Dr. Kenyatta B. Cole and Nikki Giovanni, hosting the outstanding Delta Gems Institute and the Dr. Betty Shabazz Delta Academy programs, leading the Juanita Kid Scout Economic Empowerment Community Conference, prioritizing mental health awareness for African Americans, and addressing the need for worldwide clean water by making contributions to water for children throughout the continent of Africa. The Philadelphia Alumni Chapter are Delta's leading by example, and
whereas the Quaker City Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated was chartered on October 17, 1976 on the campus of LaSalle University. There, 28 enthusiastic young women were dedicated to combining their visions, skills, and energies to establish a new alumni chapter in the Philadelphia metropolitan area. The goal of the chapter was to enhance the Philadelphia community through its public service endeavors, bringing life to the mantra that Deltas were a sisterhood called to serve, and
whereas the diligent women of the Quaker City Alumni Chapter humbly celebrate their 2018 to 2019 accomplishments, which include securing a pathway to education by awarding $6,000 in scholarships to local students, working with Habitat for Humanity to build quality homes for families in need, lobbying members of the Pennsylvania General Assembly and United States Congress for an equitable investment in education funding, fair housing laws, affordable health care, gun control laws, and sentencing reform, as well as fundraising to support breast cancer research and nonprofit organizations working to end human trafficking. The Quaker City Alumni Chapter are Deltas demonstrating leadership and service through their work. And that's awesome.
And not to be outdone, my daughter and my sister-in-law are members of this fine sorority. Whereas on February 10th, 1991, the Valley Forge Alumni Chapter was chartered with an initiation membership of 27 committed women. The chapter has since grown to a membership of 170 dynamic, energetic, and hardworking women who continue to live in their mission to provide leadership, scholarship, to youth in our community, support projects that transform the lives of families participating in charitable events, and serve as social activists. And
whereas the dutiful women of the Valley Forge Alumni Chapter humbly celebrate their 2018 to 2019 accomplishments, which include serving as a lead supporter for the Valley Forge National Historical Park Initiative to educate visitors on the contributions of African descendants during periods of war, helping to foster a love of reading among elementary students through participation in the Gottwalds Elementary School Read It program, reaching well over 200 children per month, building classroom libraries through book and financial donations, and supporting the efforts of the American Red Cross via the Sound the Alarm program, the Pillowcase Project, the Hurricane Harvey Disaster Relief Telethon, blood drives, and volunteer engagement. The Valley Forge Alumni Chapter are Delta's building a better tomorrow, and
whereas the members of each of these respective chapters' social action committees have furthered their commitment to social and political engagement by empowering and encouraging student activism through the, quote, Election Ambassador Corps, the, quote, Behind the Ballot, and the, quote, Girls Badge, and continued participation in Youth Leadership Day, where students observe council members in action and are provided a platform to engage with council members who represent the districts where the students reside. And whereas the women of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated continue to be magnificent examples of servant leaders with an uncompromising commitment to their community, which is exemplified in today's annual event of the Delta Youth Day at Philadelphia City Council that was created at the behest of the Quaker City Alumni Chapter. Now therefore, be it
Resolved by the Council of the City of Philadelphia that it hereby proudly recognizes and honors the members of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated's Philadelphia Alumnae, Quaker City Alumnae, and Valley Forge Alumnae chapters on the occasion of Delta Youth Day at Philadelphia City Council. Further resolved that an engrossed copy of this resolution be presented to the members of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated's Philadelphia, Quaker City, and Valley Forge Alumni chapters as the evidence of the sincere sentiments of this legislative body. Ladies and gentlemen, please give the ladies of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated a round of applause.
And the chair recognizes Ms. Alford for remarks. Someone else? Ms. Alford?
Good morning.
Morning.
On behalf of my president, Sean Anthony, and on behalf of our national organization, Delta Sigma Theta Sorority and Corporate, I want to thank you for allowing us to bring the youth here to see how you work. And we always tell the young people that they're not just people sitting there, they're really working in your interests. I have to say, being born and raised in Philadelphia, in the University City area, I got a fine education. I lived in a very nice house. We struggled. I ate hamburger and chicken every night for about 4 or 5 years after my parents purchased a home. But Delta Sigma Theta, not only are we educated, our job is to educate the people in the community. Our job is to go back and give the community the resources and the things that they need so they can be successful like I was successful or they were successful. We know the city has worked really hard, and we heard that this morning, in developing programs and putting Philadelphia on the map. But I have to remind everybody that nice housing is nice, but when you make $15 an hour, you don't get a $32,600 a year. You can't afford the new apartments that are going up, and you have 2 kids in apartments are saying that it's $2,800 a month. You can't say to somebody that is able to go to University of Penn Hospital, Temple Hospital, and whatnot, to get the resources they have for the illnesses they have if you have no health care. You cannot figure out whether or not you're going to be represented in the upcoming count for the census. We're going to do everything we possibly can to make sure every citizen in Philadelphia is counted so the money can come to our city so it can help every citizen in the city of Philadelphia. I just want to say, where's Blondell? Sora Reynolds, Brown, you have been an inspiration to us. Lord, we will miss you. I just want to let you know that they do have positions on the state and the national level. And if you go there, you will see this red and white with no problem whatsoever. I just want to thank you again for taking the time to show our youth what it's like in the future, what they have for the future. And we will be meeting in a few minutes. The last thing is on your table. There is a pen, and it's a pen light. You pull off the end, save that, and you push it, and it lights up. I want you to make sure that every day you push this pin, and you'll be reminded that there's Deltas here behind you. We can work together to make it better for everybody in the city of Philadelphia. Thank you.
Greetings to President Clark, our other city officials, and our guest here today. My name is Tracy Howard. I'm the president of Valley Forge Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority. We thank you for having us here today and for recognizing our contributions that we have done in the community. We can't do it without you, so we do thank you for attending all of our fundraisers, our other events, but those funds help us stay in the community and host programs that help our youth, families, and we also take care of scholarships. Our presence here today for the Delta Youth Day, we're hoping not just the youth, but also other citizens that are here. We're hoping that our presence shows you that it's important to stay politically involved. Stay engaged with what is going on in the city. Make an impact by voting. Be a long-time voter. Have an impact on the decisions that are going to affect you, your family, and your community. That's how we're going to start, by touching our youth today. We're hoping to have dialogue with them. This social action engagement is, I want to say, what is needed, not just today, but we're hoping every day. And again, welcome, welcome, thank you for recognizing us.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Linda Miller, and I'm co-chair of Social Action Philadelphia Alumni Chapter, and our president is Dr. Monica Johnson-Taylor. I don't have to say much more, but I need to say this. We have work to do in our communities. We have work to do. And council should always reach out to Delta at any time when there's work in their community that they need help for. Because we are the Red Army. And we're called the Red Army because we know we got work to do and we stay woke. So when you have challenges coming down the road, and we know the next biggest challenge is going to be the census, we're going to be out there making sure and helping you and helping get money to make sure that count is correct. So I want to thank Cherelle Parker Councilwoman Parker for inviting us here, Councilwoman Brown for always being there, and Councilman Darrell Clark for keeping it moving. So I want to thank, and all the other council members that are here, keep doing what you're doing because the Red Army is watching you. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Councilman Biddies. Congratulations. Our next order of business is communications, and the chair requests that the Sergeant of Arms delivers the messages from the mayor to the chief clerk. And Mr. Decker, please read those messages.
To the President and members of the Council of the City of Philadelphia, I am pleased to advise you that on May 1, 2019, I signed all the bills which were passed by Council at its session on April 25, 2019. And I am submitting herewith for the consideration of your honorable body a resolution approving the redevelopment contract of the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority for the redevelopment and urban renewal of a portion of the Germantown redevelopment area, identified by house number and street address as 65 West Penn Street, and an ordinance authorizing the City of Philadelphia Department of Public Health to enter into an intergovernmental agreement with the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania Department of Human Services, whereby additional funds can be made available to city federally qualified health centers, and an ordinance amending Chapter 192600 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Business Income and Receipts Taxes by amending Section 192606 entitled Returns to revise filing requirements, all under certain terms and conditions.
Thank you, Mr. Decker. You have any additional communications?
I have none, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. And our next order of business is the introduction of bills and resolutions, and the chair recognizes Councilwoman Reynolds Brown.
President, no bills or resolutions this morning.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Blackwell.
Thank you, Mr. President. Today I have two bills.
Thank you, Councilwoman.
Thank you.
An ordinance amending Section 2 of an ordinance, Bill number 180285, approved June 6, 2018, entitled, an ordinance authorizing the trustees of the University of Pennsylvania to install, own, and maintain various encroachments at 1 Convention Avenue,
For the committee.
and an ordinance authorizing the City of Philadelphia to enter into an intergovernmental agreement with the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania Department of Human Services, whereby additional funds can be made available to city federally qualified health centers.
For the committee. Chair recognizes Councilman Greenlee.
Thank you, Mr. President. On your behalf, I offer one resolution.
Thank you, Councilman.
A non-privileged resolution authorizing the Commissioner of Public Property to execute and deliver to the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority, without consideration, deeds conveying conditional fee simple title to certain city-owned lots and pieces of ground with the buildings and improvements thereon, situated in the 32nd Ward of the City of Philadelphia.
Next week's calendar. Chair recognizes Councilman Heenan.
Thank you, Mr. President. Today, I introduce one bill.
Thank you, Councilman.
An ordinance amending Section 12701 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Designation of Bicycle Lanes to authorize bicycle lanes on Richmond Street from Lewis Street to Berkshire Street.
For the committee. Chair recognizes Councilman Jones.
Thank you, Mr. President. One resolution today.
Thank you, Councilman.
A privileged resolution recognizing and honoring Joanne Dahme for her many years of service as the General Manager of the Public Affairs Division for the Philadelphia Water Department.
Today's calendar. Chair recognizes Councilman Johnson.
Council President, I have two bills and one privileged resolution.
Thank you, Councilman.
An ordinance amending Title 14 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Zoning and Planning to revise certain provisions of Chapter 14500 entitled Overlay Zoning Districts by creating an overlay district entitled WOA West Oregon Avenue Overlay District.
Today's calendar.
And an ordinance to amend the Philadelphia zoning maps by changing the zoning designations of certain areas of land in the area bounded by Passyunk Avenue, Rittner Street, 22nd Street, Oregon Avenue, Vare Avenue, and 24th Street.
Today's calendar.
And a privileged resolution authorizing the Committee on Legislative Oversight to conduct hearings to examine the progress of the Free Library of Philadelphia and the Free Library of Philadelphia Foundation in pursuing organizational goals, including expanding hours, reducing unplanned closures, and delaying openings.
Thank you, Mr. Decker. Correction, the last bill that was read by the chief clerk shall be referred to committee. Chair recognizes Councilman Green.
Thank you, Council President. I have one bill on my behalf and one non-privileged resolution on behalf of Councilmember Sanchez.
Thank you, Councilman.
An ordinance amending Chapter 192600 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Business Income and Receipts Taxes by amending Section 192606 entitled Returns to revise filing requirements.
For the committee.
And a non-privileged resolution authorizing the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority to dispose of 3217 Shelbourne Street located in the 7th Councilmanic District.
Next week's calendar. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Parker.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have one non-privilege.
Thank you, Councilwoman.
A non-privileged resolution commending various local private, not-for-profit, and governmental entities for adopting the accessible icon and calling on the City of Philadelphia to utilize this logo for all new public works projects.
Next week's calendar, Chair recognizes Councilman Don.
Morning, Council President. I have no bills or resolutions today.
Thank you, Councilman. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Gimm.
Good morning, Council President. I have no bills or resolutions today.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Chair recognizes Councilman Taubenberger.
Morning, Council President and colleagues. I have no bills or resolutions today.
Thank you, Councilman. Chair recognizes Councilman O'Neill.
Thank you, Mr. President. I offer 2 bills.
Thank you, Councilman.
An ordinance to amend the Philadelphia zoning maps by changing the zoning designations of certain areas of land located within an area bounded by Roosevelt Boulevard, Bluegrass Road, and Grant Avenue.
For the committee.
And an ordinance to amend the Philadelphia zoning maps by changing the zoning designations of certain areas of land located within an area bounded by Old Newtown Road, Tremont Street, Roosevelt Boulevard, Woodward Street, and Winchester Avenue.
Also referred to committee. Chair recognizes Councilman Squilla.
Thank you, Mr. President. I offer 5 bills.
Thank you, Councilman.
An ordinance amending Chapter 14500 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Overlay Zoning Districts by creating a new overlay entitled 9th ST Market, 9th Street Market Overlay District, and an ordinance to amend the Philadelphia zoning maps by changing the zoning designations of certain areas of land located in an area bounded by 4th Street, Ray Street, Oriana Street, and Cherry Street, and an ordinance amending Section 12701 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Designated Bicycle Lanes to authorize bicycle lanes in the 1st Councilmanic District on North 10th Street from Buttonwood Street to Callow Hill Street and on Columbus Boulevard from Dilworth Street to Swanson Street, and an ordinance establishing parking regulations in the vicinity of Camac Street and Moyamensing Avenue, McKean Street and South 10th Street, Snyder Avenue and South 10th Street, Sartain Street and Mifflin Street, South Juniper Street and Jackson Street, Hoffman Street and South 7th Street, Wolf Street and South 11th Street, and an ordinance establishing parking regulations in the vicinity of South 12th Street and Passyunk Avenue, Emily Street and South 8th Street, Dudley Street and South 7th Street, through South 9th Street, Winton Street and South 11th Street, South 9th Street and McKean Street, South 13th Street and Morris Street.
Those 5 bills just read by the Chief Clerk will be referred to the appropriate committee. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Bass.
Thank you, Mr. President. I offer 1 non-privileged resolution and 1 bill.
Thank you, Councilwoman.
An ordinance approving a new plan, estimated costs, and proposed method of assessment of the Germantown Special Services District of Philadelphia for and concerning business improvements and administrative services to the Germantown area of the city.
For the committee.
And a non-privileged resolution approving the redevelopment contract of the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority for the redevelopment and urban renewal of a portion of the Germantown redevelopment area identified by house number and street address as 65 West Penn Street.
Next week's calendar. Chair recognizes Councilman O.
Thank you very much, Council President. I offer 1 privilege resolution co-sponsored by Council members Gimm, Squilla, Heenan, Taubenberger, and Bass.
Thank you, Councilman.
A privilege resolution recognizing May 2019 as Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month in Philadelphia.
And that will be on today's calendar. That concludes our introduction of bills and resolutions. And our next order of business is reports from committee. And the chair recognizes Councilman Johnson for a report from the Committee of Transportation and Public Utilities.
Thank you, Council President. The Committee on Transportation and Public Utilities reports 1 bill with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you. Mr. Decker, please read the report.
To the President and members of the Council of the City of Philadelphia, the Committee on Transportation and Public Utilities, to which is referred Bill Number 180976, entitled, An Ordinance Authorizing the Procurement Commissioner to enter into agreements to purchase electricity, natural gas, and motor fuel for use by the city in city facilities and vehicles, including agreements that obligate payment for delivery of such energy supplies in future fiscal years. Respectfully reports it has considered the same and returns the attached bill to Council with a favorable recommendation.
Chair can recognize Councilman Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the rules of council be suspended so as to permit first reading this day of Bill Number 180976.
Thank you. It has been moved and properly second that the rules of council be suspended so as to permit first reading this day of bills number 180976. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, ayes have it. and this bill will be placed on our first reading calendar today. That concludes our reports from committee, and our next order of business is consideration of the calendar. I note that the bill just reported from committee with the suspension of the rules have been deemed to have had a first reading. It will be on our second reading and final passage calendar at our next session of council. As there are no additional bills on the first reading calendar, Chair recognizes Councilman Heenan for the purpose of calling up bills and resolutions on our final passage calendar.
Thank you, Mr. President. The following resolutions and bills are being called up for second reading and final passage calendars today. They are bill numbers 190238, 190324, 190325, 190326, 190329, 190330, 190332, 190333, 19034, 190-335, 190-336, 190-346, 181-064-A, 180-998, 190-151, 190-129, 190-135, and 190-231. All other bills and resolutions are being held.
Thank you. We will now consider the bills and resolutions on our second reading and final passage calendar. Before doing so, we will have our public comment session. Our public comment session will go as follows. When your name is called, you will go to the middle of the council chambers. There's a podium. When your name is called, the podium has a device on it. There's a light. When that light turns green, it will be your time to speak. When the light turns yellow, you will have 30 seconds to conclude your remarks. When the light turns red, we'd ask that you please adhere to our guidelines and conclude your remarks. You will be given 3 minutes to testify. Mr. Decker, please call the name on the list.
Lauren Cheeseborough. Commenting on 170408.
Morning.
Good afternoon, well, good morning. I am here to ask you guys to not repeal the soda tax. The pre-K program is very beneficial to the community and the neighborhood, and with the beverage tax being used for it. I have children that are in special needs in the pre-K program. I have children that parents cannot afford childcare even with subsidy in the pre-K program. And this is very beneficial to the community.
Good? You good? Thank you. Thank you so much for your testimony.
Eliazaz Uzena. Commenting on 170408.
Morning.
Morning, Council President Clark, members of City Council. I'm here to support Resolution 170408, banning the suspension of elementary age students from the 1st through the 5th grades. This is important because every child deserves to have a chance to education and not feel abandoned. I support more investments in our schools, but not beverage taxes. Is not a way to do this. I have a business owner in this community since 2007. We run a store of only 3 employees down from 4 just a few years ago. Every day, customers blame me for the increased costs because they can just go across the street and not pay tax. Me and my wife have 2 other stores here in Philadelphia, and they're struggling too. It's not just me. Overall sales decreased by 35% since introduction of tax. If this tax remains, we will lose our business. Please repeal this tax. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony.
Tony Barana. Tony Barana.
Next name.
Rick Young. Commenting on 170408.
Morning.
I'm speaking on behalf of Councilwoman Blondell Reynolds and Councilman Jim to support the resolution for the School District of Philadelphia for prohibiting suspension of elementary school age students. But I'm also here to talk about some of the other things that I think equally as important. Neighborhood development. Neighborhood development should include everybody. Philadelphia is finally referred to as the city of neighborhoods. A surge of new investment transforming communities into highly sought-after places to live, work, and play is not all a bad thing, but for the last 15 years, multi-million-dollar development projects has not been fair. Longtime residents and business people who have been committed to these neighborhoods have largely not been able to participate in the economic growth of our own community. The development has not been diverse or inclusive. It has been done by developers who do not live in the neighborhood where they work or look like the residents. I'm an African-American real estate developer, a long-life resident of Philadelphia. I've started a business in my own community, created entrepreneurial programs in local elementary school. I still reside in the community where I grew up at. As a longtime minority business leader in West Philadelphia, I cannot outbid out-of-town millionaires for development opportunities in the city. My story is not unique. It is the reality of many minority developers in Philadelphia. Currently, Philadelphia Land Bank and the Redevelopment Authority bundle properties and they control and offer them at a higher bid. This may seem logical, but it is in fact painfully short-sighted and unfair when recognizing smaller developers participating, for particularly minority developers, in the lack of the same capital that other multi-millionaire developers have. Operating the city this way reduced the ability for smaller developers to build reasonable price, affordable projects in our neighborhoods. Look around to see the result. Luxury developments are going up in every community that the average Philadelphia cannot afford. Small local developers, minority business people do not get to participate in the economic in their neighborhoods. This is very important. Some city council members have been criticized for trying to include local business people, including myself, in the real estate development taking place in our community. I applaud those efforts. It is unacceptable to me and should be unacceptable to everyone that minority developers are scolded for seeking the same seat at the table as larger developers. I challenge the city to use its resources to create more fair opportunity for smaller local developers participating in the economic development in our neighborhoods. I would like to see more development done by local diverse developers with a local diverse workforce. Not all neighborhood growth in Philadelphia should go to outside developers just because they have big bank accounts. Allowing more local developers who participate in transforming our communities has the potential of producing thoughtful development, lasting benefits for community, more business role models, more community participation, more development dollars stay in the community and the neighborhoods to help local folks. Neighborhood development in Philadelphia that includes all of our neighbors.
Thank you.
Joe Cox, commenting on 181063.
Good morning. My name is Joe Cox.
Morning.
181063. If we were going to talk about going green like we need to, why in the world would we be opening new contracts for gas? This is a humanitarian crisis, an economic, social injustice crisis. When will we think about the kids? We already have blood on our hands. Until we act drastically, the toll will continue to increase. Philadelphia is the top 5 worst places to live for risk of asthma. Asthma is the leading cause for absentee days for kids. Over 12% of kids in school have asthma. Over 900,000 Philadelphians have asthma. Philadelphia has the highest rate of hospitalization due to asthma. Portland recently put out buses that are run 100% on renewables. Why can't Philly step up? Fossil fuels should be extinct. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony.
Minal Raval, commenting on 181063.
Morning.
Yeah, good morning. I'm Minal Raval,
here to speak on actually three items, 170706, 181063, and 181081. They're all about the climate crisis and our dependence on fracked gas. I am aware that only the second one, Bill 181063, is on the agenda today. The first item, Resolution 170706, is from September of 2017. I bring it up to remind ourselves that it commits the City of Philadelphia to meet or exceed our share of the targets set by the Paris Climate Accord to mitigate greenhouse gas emissions. Sponsors of that bill were many of you here today: Council members Cindy Bass, Derek Green, Kenyatta Johnson, Helen Gim, Curtis Jones, Blondell Reynolds Brown, Bobby Heenan, Jenny Blackwell, and David O. The emissions from PGW are about 22% of Philadelphia's emissions. What's been done to reduce these emissions in light of our commitment to the Paris Accord a year and a half ago? Related is Bill number 181063 that you've heard me, well, I just talked about that. It's about the LNG facility. And Resolution 181081 about the future of PGW beyond selling more frack gas. All three of these connected in my head when I read yesterday's New York Times article titled, "Your gas stove is bad for you and the planet." It says, to help solve the climate crisis, we need to electrify everything. I highly recommend this article. Some quotes from it. In Berkeley, Councilwoman Kate Harrison is proposing a ban on gas hookups in new buildings in an effort to make sure the city follows through on its 2018 declaration of a climate emergency. A policy idea for us. Stoves actually use very little energy, but until people are convinced that there are superior alternatives to gas stoves, we will not be able to get rid of gas lines to buildings and start saving large amounts of money by shutting down the gas distribution system. The article also says gas stoves are polluting our homes, that there's a growing body of scientific evidence showing that gas stoves throw off pollutants like nitrogen dioxide and carbon monoxide, that when you're cooking, these invisible pollutants can easily reach levels that would be illegal outdoors, but the Clean Air Act does not reach inside the home. So scientists link gas stoves to asthma attacks and hospitalizations, and doctors at Johns Hopkins urged parents with asthmatic children to get rid of their gas stoves, etc. So I'm here today asking all of you to step up, to remember the Paris Climate Accord and each of your pledges to work towards it. I'm asking each of you to be our climate champion this coming election and leave us a memorable legacy. There are many of us ready to work with you on the transition. Who will it be? Ms. Bass, Mr. Green, Mr. Johnson, or Ms. Gim? I can read the whole list off. Mr. Jones, Ms. Reynolds Brown, Heenan, Ms. Blackwell, or you, Mr. O. We
Thank
need
you.
climate champions, people.
Thank you. Thanks for your testimony.
Jacqueline Wiggins, commenting on 190231.
Good afternoon.
Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon. Oh, good afternoon. The 190231 reads, an ordinance approving a substantial amendment to the annual action plan 2018-2019 for $19,131,000 from the Housing Trust Fund, non-recording fee sub-fund, all under certain terms and conditions. I'm here today to talk in terms of if this is to be supported, what does it mean, and what does it mean under certain terms and conditions? I should hope that some of the certain terms and conditions would mean that we do something about our trash problem. Our trash problem is outrageous, as we know, but there are some issues. And Councilman Clark, I'm directing this really to you. In an April 18th article in the Philadelphia Tribune, the article had to do with our streets, and Commissioner Carlton Williams did give comment and so forth. But I'm concerned about the last paragraph of that article that says, City Council President Darrell Clark said that city residents are responsible for the condition of the streets as well. I can agree to that. Here's the quote. You talked about this issue, and this is you speaking, Councilman Clark. You talked about this issue of environmentally sound ways of moving trash off the street, said Clark. I think the most environmentally sound way of doing that is for people to stop throwing trash on the street. At the end of the day, people in this city need to stop being pigs. Now, just want you to know that Philadelphia taxpayers who pay salaries here, yours, we are not pigs, all right? We are hardworking people. We are people who are deserving of more than that type of descriptor. And so, with respect to this part where it says this $19 million, all under certain terms and conditions, my hope would be that we would have more trash receptacles in our city, that there would be other ways in which the trash can be disposed of, and that we not be treated as animals. We are human beings. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony.
Joe Danahill. Commenting on 190195, 190325, 190324, 190329, 190332, 190333, and 190334.
Good afternoon.
Official decree of the people in writ mandamus quo warranto, as such requires immediate action remedy. The council accused a presidential candidate of buying votes for a bag of weed and a 40. The council denied and deride any election oversight by the Commonwealth. Last week, council awarded the city for conducting the most fair elections. We're most educated by a law school whose professors stated he didn't see a problem with anyone trying to vote twice. Then, Councilperson Blackwell expressed council's concern for the homeless and downtrodden. Did council forget the June 2018 illegal but unanimous approval to build a mall on top of my stolen home with federal HUD money? Are the willful and illegal oath-violating behaviors so numerous one needs a scorecard to keep up? If U.S. Attorney General McSwain stated failure to perform a known duty or task is illegal, then why have no attorney generals refused to investigate and prosecute the numerous oath constitutional and law violations? The constitutions require immediate remedy of this breach of law, breach of clothes, breach of fiduciary duty. Your oath of office requires you to act or face prison. 42 U.S.C. 1982, 1983, 1985, 1986, 1987, 18 U.S.C. 241, 242, 2381, 2384, PA Constitution, Article 1, Sections 1 through 28, 26 PA CSA, 703, 705, 708, 709, 711, 712, 713, 716, 902, and other laws listed in SCOTUS 1589, 65, 141330, 144056 appear violated. I call on the federal and Commonwealth governments to perform their constitutional obligations to investigate, prosecute all involved in the illegal theft and deed transfer of my home, 1038 West Wyoming Avenue. The denial of God-given 42 U.S.C. 1982 property rights for 25 years is egregious, extraordinary, oath-violating, and requires immediate remedy. A just government must obey the rule of law. This color of law government must have its charter to govern revoked until a constitutionally compliant government is installed. Public servants cannot refuse their sworn duty to act any more than a fireman can refuse to fight a fire. The sovereign people require oath, constitution, and law be enforced, and jail is required for all who violate oath, constitution, or law. I remind council, it takes a lot of cooperation to create and allow this monumental corruption.
Thank you very much for your testimony.
Agbona Higgins. Commenting on 180723.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning. Good afternoon.
My name is Obona Higgins, for the record, and actually, I want to change this. You know, I was going to talk about the dumping, but a few people before me talked about our environment, and the state constitution is basically a green document, and we're not adhering.
Sir, what are you speaking about?
What am I speaking on?
Yes.
I'm speaking on, I was going to speak on 170408, but I'll speak on that.
You want to speak on?
But I really want to talk about the environment, you know?
Okay, but you have to speak about something that's on the calendar.
Okay, let me talk about the not suspending children, right, under the 5th grade.
Okay.
So we definitely shouldn't do that. I spoke about that about 6 months. I thought that would have obviously been gone. But, you know, I saw, I got a report on Facebook about our schools, and in particular our schools in African-American neighborhoods, and that there's a grading system that was distributed, and that the schools in the hood are failing. That's primarily African-American children. And I remember when I was teaching, and actually when I graduated, you know, our students can't read, our students can't write. 6 out of 10 children who graduate can't read, write, or do math on a high school level. And we're sitting around talking about not suspending children. We have to not let them graduate with a false document, with a false sense that they can go out here and succeed. And this is primarily happening to African-American children with primarily African-American leadership in city council, and I don't understand how you can be sitting here and comfortable with that and not doing something drastic and radical to change this education system. We need a 21st century education system that keeps up with what's going on right now. Where is coding? Where is science, technology, engineering, and math? Where are our trades? Where are they? We need some answers. And I want to piggyback on this environment piece too. We have a green document in the state that basically says that we have the right to clean air and clean water. This dumping is violating our rights. Not keeping the streams clean is violating the state constitution. Obona Hagins, 5'8".
Thank you for your testimony, sir.
There are no other speakers in the public comment list, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. That concludes our public comment. We now consider today's calendar on bills and resolutions. And Mr. Decker, please read the title of 190-238.
A resolution condemning Pennsylvania State Representative Stephanie Borowitz's religious invocation on the day of the swearing-in of the first Muslim woman to ever serve in the General Assembly as Islamophobic and inappropriate.
Chair recognizes Councilman Jones.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for its adoption.
It's been moved and probably second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it. 190-238 has been adopted. Would you like to be recognized, Councilman? I'm sorry. You want to be? Okay. And anyone else? Councilman O. Let the record reflect that Councilman O and Councilman O'Neill voted nay. Thank you. Mr. Decker, 190-324.
A resolution authorizing the Commissioner of Public Property to execute and deliver to the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority without consideration deeds conveying conditional fee simple title to certain city-owned lots and pieces of ground with the buildings and improvements thereon situated in the 24th Ward of the City of Philadelphia.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman Blackwell.
Thank you, Mr. President. Move the adoption. Second.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, ayes have it. 190-324 is adopted. Mr. Decker, 190-325.
Resolution authorizing the Philadelphia Land Bank to dispose of 2449 North Marston Street located in the 5th Councilmanic District.
Chair recognizes Councilman Greenlee.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the adoption of the resolution.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, ayes have it. Resolution 190-325 is adopted. Mr. Decker, 190-326.
A resolution also naming the 1100 block of Custis Place as John L. Bivens Place, honoring the memory, life, and legacy of a Yorktown hero.
Chair again recognizes Councilman Greenlee.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the adoption of the resolution.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, ayes have it. 190-326 is adopted. Mr. Decker, 190-329.
A resolution authorizing the Commissioner of Public Property to execute and deliver to the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority without consideration deeds conveying conditional fee simple title to certain city-owned lots and pieces of ground with the buildings and improvements thereon, situated in the 36th Ward of the City of Philadelphia.
Chair recognizes Councilman Johnson.
Council President, I move for the adoption of the resolution.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, ayes have it. 190-329 is adopted. Mr. Decker, 190-330.
A resolution also naming Sears Street between 27th Street and 28th Street Ella Best Way to honor Miss Ella Pridgeon Best, founder of Don't Shoot, I Want a Future, for her years of community activism and her contributions to the city of Philadelphia.
Chair again recognizes Councilmember Johnson.
Council President, I move for the adoption of the resolution.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, ayes have it. 190-330 is adopted. Mr. Decker, 190-332.
A resolution authorizing the Commissioner of Public Property to execute and deliver to the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority without consideration deeds conveying conditional fee simple title to certain city-owned lots and pieces of ground with the buildings and improvements thereon situated in the 7th Ward of the city of Philadelphia.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman Sanchez.
For its adoption.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, ayes have it. 190-332 is adopted. Mr. Decker, 190-333.
A resolution authorizing the Philadelphia Land Bank to dispose of 3519 North Marshall Street located in the 7th Councilmanic District.
Chair again recognizes Councilwoman Sanchez.
Thank you. I move for its adoption.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, ayes have it. 190-333 is adopted. Mr. Decker, 190-334.
A resolution authorizing the Philadelphia Land Bank to dispose of 1907 East Sterner Street, 1722 North 3rd Street, 2751 Kensington Avenue, 265 West Thayer Street, and 2741 North Orkney Street, located in the 7th Councilmanic District.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman Sanchez.
Thank you. I move for its adoption.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, ayes have it. 190-334 is adopted. Mr. Decker, 190-335.
A resolution renaming the 1800 block of Falkrod Street Reverend William H. Anderson Way to recognize, honor, and celebrate the life and legacy of Reverend William H. Anderson for his dedication to the Northeast Baptist Church community.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman Sanchez.
Thank you. I move for its adoption.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, ayes have it. 190-335 is adopted. Mr. Decker, 190-336.
A resolution renaming the 4700 block of Tackawanna Street Reverend Lee Mason Jr. Way to recognize, honor, and celebrate the life and legacy of Reverend Lee Mason Jr. for his dedication to the Northeast Baptist Church community.
One more time, Chair recognizes Councilwoman Sanchez.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for its adoption.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, ayes have it. 190-336 is adopted. Mr. Decker, 190-346.
A resolution authorizing the establishment of a special committee on child separation in Philadelphia to investigate child separation in Philadelphia's child welfare system and develop recommendations to ensure compliance with state child protective services law to protect children and due process rights of families and prevent the unnecessary breakup of families.
Chair recognizes Councilman O.
Thank you very much, Council President. I would like to offer an amendment to resolution number 190346. A copy of the amendment has been circulated to all members of council. I move for the adoption of the amendment.
A second. It's been moved and properly that amendment to 190346 be adopted. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, ayes have it. 190346. 346 has been amended. It will be on our second reading and final passage calendar at our next session of council. Mr. Decker, 181-064A.
An ordinance amending Title 14 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Zoning and Planning to revise certain provisions of Chapter 14-500 entitled Overlay Zoning Districts by amending the CDO, Central Delaware Riverfront Overlay District, to revise provisions relating to river access streets.
This bill has been heard on 2 separate days. The question is, shall the bill pass finally? Mr. Decker, call the roll.
Councilwoman Bass. Councilwoman Blackwell. Councilman Dom. Councilman Green. Councilman Greenlee. Councilwoman Gim. Councilman Heenan. Councilman Johnson. Councilman Jones. Councilman O'Neill. Councilman O. Councilwoman Parker. Councilwoman Corona Sanchez. Councilwoman Reynolds Brown. Councilman Squilla. Councilman Taubenberger. Council President Clark.
Aye, the ayes are 17, nays are 0. Majority of members present voting in affirmative, the bill passes. Mr. Decker, 180-998.
An ordinance amending Title 14 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Zoning and Planning by amending Section 14603 entitled Use-Specific Standards to revise the standards and procedures for medical marijuana dispensaries.
This bill has been heard on 2 separate days. The question is, shall the bill pass finally? Mr. Decker, call the roll.
Councilwoman Bass. Councilwoman Blackwell. Councilman Dom, Councilman Green, Councilman Greenlee, Councilwoman Gim, Councilman Heenan, Councilman Johnson, Councilman Jones, Councilman O'Neill, Councilman O, Councilwoman Parker, Councilwoman Corona Sanchez, Councilwoman Reynolds Brown, Councilman Squilla, Councilman Taubenberger, Council President Clark.
Aye, the ayes are 17 and nays are 0. Majority of members present voting in the affirmative, the bill passes. Mr. Decker, 190-151.
An ordinance to amend the Philadelphia zoning maps by changing the zoning designations of certain areas of land located within an area bounded by 21st Street, Oxford Street, 20th Street, Jefferson Street, and Ridge Avenue.
This bill has been heard on 2 separate days. The question is, shall the bill pass finally? Mr. Decker, call the roll.
Councilwoman Bass, Councilwoman Blackwell, Councilman Dom, Councilman Green, Councilman Greenlee, Councilwoman Gim, Councilman Heenan, Councilman Johnson, Councilman Jones, Councilman O'Neill, Councilman O, Councilwoman Parker, Councilwoman Corona Sanchez, Councilwoman Reynolds Brown, Councilman Squilla, Councilman Taubenberger, Council President Clark.
Aye, the ayes are 17 and nays are 0. Majority of members present voting in the affirmative, bill passes. Mr. Decker, 190-129.
An ordinance constituting the 22nd supplemental ordinance to the restated general water and wastewater revenue bond ordinance of 1989 is supplemented, authorizing the bond committee to issue and sell one or more series of, or subseries of tax-exempt or taxable water and wastewater revenue bonds and revenue refunding bonds.
This bill has been heard on 2 separate days. The question is, shall the bill pass finally? Mr. Decker, call the roll.
Councilwoman Bass, Councilwoman Blackwell, Councilman Dom, Councilman Green, Councilman Greenlee, Councilwoman Gim, Councilman Heenan, Councilman Johnson, Councilman Jones, Councilman O'Neill, Councilman O, Councilwoman Parker, Councilwoman Corona Sanchez, Councilwoman Reynolds Brown, Councilman Squilla, Councilman Taubenberger, Council President Clark.
Aye, the ayes are 17 and nays are 0. Majority of members present voting in affirmative, the bill passes. Mr. Decker, 190-135.
An ordinance amending Chapter 19-1400 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Realty Transfer Tax to clarify the definition of value.
This bill has been heard on 2 separate days. The question is, shall the bill pass finally? Mr. Decker, call the roll.
Councilwoman Bass, Councilwoman Blackwell, Councilman Dom, Councilman Green, Councilman Greenlee, Councilwoman Gim, Councilman Heenan, Councilman Johnson, Councilman Jones, Councilman O'Neill, Councilman O, Councilwoman Parker, Councilwoman Corona Sanchez, Councilwoman Reynolds Brown, Councilman Squilla, Councilman Taubenberger, Council President Clark.
Aye, the ayes are 17 and nays are 0. Majority of members present voting in affirmative, the bill passes. Mr. Decker, 190-231.
An ordinance approving a substantial amendment to the Annual Action Plan 2018 through 2019 for $19,131,000 from the Housing Trust Fund Non-Recording Fee Sub-Fund.
This bill has been heard on 2 separate days. The question is, shall the bill pass finally? Mr. Decker, call the roll.
Councilwoman Bass, Councilwoman Blackwell, Councilman Dom, Councilman Green, Councilman Greenlee, Councilwoman Gim, Councilman Heenan, Councilman Johnson, Councilman Jones, Councilman O'Neill, Councilman O, Councilwoman Parker, Councilwoman Corona Sanchez, Councilwoman Reynolds Brown, Councilman Squilla, Councilman Taubenberger, Council President Clark.
Aye, the ayes are 17 and nays are 0. Majority of members present voting in affirmative, bill passes. Mr. Decker, you have any additional resolutions?
A resolution recognizing and honoring Joanne Dahme for her many years of service as the General Manager of the Public Affairs Division for the Philadelphia Water Department, introduced by Councilman Jones.
Chair recognizes Councilman Jones.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for its adoption.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, ayes have it. That resolution is adopted.
And a resolution authorizing the Committee on Legislative Oversight to conduct hearings to examine the progress of the Free Library of Philadelphia and the Free Library of Philadelphia Foundation in pursuing organizational goals, including expanding hours, reducing unplanned closures and delayed openings, enhancing equity in library services, promoting diversity and inclusion, and increasing transparency, introduced by Councilman Johnson.
Chair recognizes Councilman Johnson.
Council President, I move for the adoption of the resolution.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, ayes have it. That resolution is adopted.
And a resolution recognizing May 2019 as Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month in Philadelphia to celebrate and commemorate the proud heritage of Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders and their significant contributions to the development of the arts, sciences, government, commerce, and education in the city, introduced by Councilman O.
Chair recognizes Councilman O.
Move for adoption of the resolution.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, ayes have it. That resolution is adopted.
There are no other resolutions on the final passage calendar, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. Are there any speeches on behalf of the minority? Speeches on behalf of the majority? Oh, I'm sorry, no. Chair recognizes Councilman Taubenberger.
Council President, when the vote was held on Resolution 190238, I was out of the chambers, and I'd like to be recorded as no.
Thank you, Councilman. The
Thank
record
you,
shall
Mr.
reflect that. Speeches on behalf of the majority. Chair recognizes Councilman Jones.
Thank you, Mr. President. On Saturday, May 4th, 2019, the anticipated 11th Annual Block Captains Boot Camp will be held in the 4th District at the Overbrook School for the Blind, 6333 Malvern Avenue, featuring workshops including Block Captains 101, financial literacy, and emergency preparedness, all provided by experts from the city. We will have over 60 resource booths ranging in services from tax abatements, how to fill out the request, to getting your litter stick that you can pick up stuff with, not dirty your hands. So we look forward to people coming out. It is for the block captains of the 4th District, but this one-time offer happens only. Each council member will get us free 2 block captain scholarship for the day. I didn't hear a round of applause, but that's okay. We really have a good time. Thank you always for coming out and supporting it. Mr. President, my colleague, Councilman Johnson, Councilwoman Reynolds Brown all stopped through. It is a good time for all. We have Captain Pressure, Sergeant Boot Camp Specialists who will do some light calisthenics for us to get our minds right. But the most important thing is within those service booths, for most city-related issues, you can start at booth 1, end at booth 60, and get your life right. So come out. That's 11 a.m., 3:30 until 3:30, Saturday at the Overbrook School for the Blind, 6333 Malvern Avenue. Thank you for your support.
Thank you, Councilman. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Parker.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just 2 notes. The first one, for all of our colleagues, I just want to remind you that the ladies of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated are in the caucus room. Lunch has been prepared for you. They're hoping that you will come over and just say hello to them and break bread and talk about just a few issues for those who live in the respective districts and to talk with those who are at large. The second issue, Mr. President, is tonight at 7 p.m. at St. Peter's Evangelical Lutheran Church, located in a neighborhood I grew up in West Oak Lane, 2167 74th Avenue. We will be hosting our 6th 2019 budget briefing and town hall meeting. There is only one more to go. We're praying that the rain holds off, but the meeting is scheduled to take place. So I look forward to seeing residents of the 9th Councilmanic District tonight at 7 p.m. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Chair recognizes Councilman Johnson.
Thank you, Council President. Tomorrow, we will be kicking off our Vare Recreational Center rebuild initiative. This is a $15 million overhaul of a dilapidated recreation center in the 2nd Councilmanic District. It's going to take place at Vera Recreation Center, 1 p.m. Program kicks off at 2 p.m. But it's also going to be a great day for us to bring the community together. Former Eagles player Connor Barwin, he's the founder of the Make the World Better Foundation. He'll be out there with his team, and so it'll be a great time. But it's also exciting to get this project moving forward, and it's an opportunity for our young people to come out and look at what the future holds for the new Vera Recreation Center. Thank you very much, Council President.
Thank you, Councilman. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Reynolds Brown.
Yes, Mr. President, good morning. I want to seize this moment to lift up the resolution that was introduced by Councilman Kenyatta Johnson and co-sponsored by Councilwoman Bass and myself. And what it will ultimately do is to allow us to revisit the still, for me, disturbing culture and practices that exist at the Philadelphia Free Library. I want to seize this time to remind the leadership of the library and any institution that being a role model matters, and when you do not chastise those who don't believe in equity across the board, then something is wrong. This resolution will send the message that this issue is not going to go away, and we'll revisit it in the fall and again by the end of the year. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilwoman. And Councilwoman, why don't you give us a motion to adjourn?
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that council stand adjourned until Thursday, May 9th, 2019 at 10 a.m.
Second is moving properly. Second, council stand adjourned until Thursday, May 9th, 2019, 10 a.m. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, ayes have it. Thank you all very much.